Hello, welcome back to the Reading Mama. My name is Heather, and today I want to give you a quick wrap up of what I actually read in January. Now, if you saw my TBR, you saw me sharing about my cheap old reading journal and how I have it organized. And so here's my January TBR, and I only actually finished 3 books on my TBR. I kind of forgot I was supposed to read some of these books this month. So, and I opted for other things. It was a challenging month and a lot of time in the car, so there's a lot of audiobooks that I actually ended up reading, and a lot of middle grade fiction and sci-fi and stuff. So I got way off track. But let's touch down with what I did get done. I did read Anne of Green Gables along with Chantel at Chantel Reads All Day. She's doing A Year of Maud, and I reread this and I realized why I love it so much. It reminds me of my daughters. One in particular is very much an Anne. She's just quirky, and if there's trouble to be got into, it's her. And so I just loved that story. I love children, and I love how she portrays them. Plus, you have just the beautiful language. So I'm actually calling this also my, the other challenge Chantel is doing is Read Your Bookshelf Challenge. It was supposed to be something beautiful, and the words in here are just beautiful. The way she describes nature, relationships, the relationship that develops between Anne and Marilla and Matthew is just, it's just beautiful. And I absolutely love it. So I'm excited to read Anne of Avonlea next for this current month for February. Other books that I finished, but I don't have is The Forgotten Book. I do have one of her previous books, the author, sorry. It is Mathilde Glaser. I'm not sure. It's a book in translation. So the Forgotten Book is one I read, and it was really good. It was a it was set in a modern setting in a German castle. Definitely YA middle. This is for Around the Globe YA challenge with Spread Book Joy, and somebody else is doing it with her. I'll tag them below. And it's the January-February read. Is called The Forgotten Book, and it takes place in Germany in a fairly modern setting. And they're well-to-do kids at a boarding school that takes place in a castle. And let's just say it gets a little Grimm's fairy tale-ish. I really enjoyed it. I gave it to my teen after reading it. She did not enjoy it as much. Mostly, she said, because there was a little bit of boyfriend-girlfriend thing, but it was funny because there really was there's no spice or anything. There were a couple of expletives. It does have magic. So, if you're hardcore no magic, we're kind of particular about what brand of magic we will allow and not allow. But I enjoyed it a lot, so much so that I went to library and got her next book. So I'm part of the way through that one. But that was a wonderful read. I do encourage, if you're looking for a YA middle grade for somebody who likes fairy tales and things like that, check out The Forgotten Book by Mathilde Glaser, I believe is how you say it. The other book I finished that was on mine was another YA. I don't know if it's really intended to be YA, but I'm going to call it YA. And it's The Heir The Spare. And again, Chantal has been talking about this. I've seen it in several of her videos. I had to pick it up. I read it in a night. It was so good. My husband kept coming to check on me. Are you still reading that book? Because it was so good, and I finished it very quickly. It's got a fairy tale kind of aspect, very fantasy related. No spice, no swears, nothing untoward. I'm going to give it to my high schooler to read as a fun read for next year. Basically, you have a royal family who has 2 daughters, the heir and the spare. And it talks about their relationship, so to speak, and what happens as they're trying to marry off the heir and the trouble that the spare causes, so to speak. I don't want to give too much away. It's hard to tell you much without giving this away. But I will give you this content warning that if there's a trigger for you with bullying or physical violence, abuse, this may not be the book for you, because one of the characters is physically abused. And they talk about it and they do it well. It's very fairy tale-ish, but I do want to caution that it does have that pretty heavy. So those were the 3 books that were on my TBR that I finished. So what other books did I finish? And I have to go to the back. Books I didn't get to. I did start Dune, but it's a beefy book, you guys. So, you know, I got almost exactly halfway there. So I'm hoping to finish that this month, and I am loving this more than I thought I would. A lot of people are like, the first Dune is not that great. I'm enjoying it so much. I wanted to read at least this one from the series, possibly more, in a tribute to my dad, who loved these books and loved the old movies and would have loved these new movies. And so I loved it. I love the sci-fi world. I like comparing it to the movies. And nerd that I am, I really want to watch the old movies now too. But I'm really enjoying the world that Frank Herbert has created, and all of the interactions and connections, and how it shows so many connections in our modern day political world. And I'm really enjoying that. So I'm hoping to finish that this next month. So that was on my TBR, and I didn't finish it. Another book that is on my TBR that I didn't finish, Habits for a Sacred Home. So you can see I'm getting through it slowly but surely. But I lost my tags halfway through, so I gotta go find new tags. I'm really, really, really enjoying this, but it's one that you need to read slowly and then absorb and then put in practice kind of and pray about. So it's a slower read. Also on my list for January, I've started, obviously, and again, lost my tags, and it's a slower read. It's a reread, so I pick it up as needed and reread it. Hopefully I'll finish it this month. We'll see. And then, like all the other ones on my list, I just didn't pick up. I don't know, I forgot about my list, ignored my list. I Have a Chance to Die. I'm still only a couple chapters into this. It's good. I'm just not in a biography mood right now. So, you know, hey, that is what it is. So what did I actually read? So those are ones I didn't get to. Okay. I have a list. I'm going to try to pop up the pictures because a lot of these, like I said, were audiobooks or library books. So first, I start off the year with Midwife of Auschwitz by Anna Stewart, and that was an amazing historical fiction. Truly amazing. Loved it. I love the historical notes at the back. I really want to look into that even more. It's in the title. It's a midwife in Auschwitz. Sorry, child interruption. Not sure where I left off. But Midwife of Auschwitz, it's very self-explanatory. A Christian midwife, so that part might be different. But a Christian midwife is sent to Auschwitz for aiding and abetting the Hebrew people, or Jewish people in what country now? I'm trying to think where they were. I don't remember now. Anyways, but she's sent to Auschwitz. This is based on a actual midwife who was in Auschwitz and saved many, many women. They all delivered their babies alive. Obviously, all the babies did not survive. Many did. It's a beautiful story, heart-wrenching, beautiful story. So I highly recommend that. Then I did like a whole slew of middle grade books, like I said. So I listened to Running Out of Time by Haddix because my preteen and teen were like, you gotta read this. Next up is Falling Out of Time. Running Out of Time was very strange. Basically, in real time, it's 1996, but these people are growing up thinking it is the early 1800s. And one of the girls, people are getting sick, so one of the girls has to escape. That's when she finds out that it's actually 1996 and has to find help. There is like a whole web of deception and problems that arise from it, plus little nuances of the culture, which are kind of interesting as somebody who grew up in that culture, would have been the same age as the character in 1996, or roughly close to. Little bit of nuances for my kids who didn't always understand everything, you know, payphones and things like that. But what we really loved is it's set in Indiana, and it's set in South Central Indiana, which is where we have lived most of our lives. We're now West Central Indiana, but it referenced literal roads that we have driven on hundreds of times, towns we've visited or lived in. And so to us, that was like a little add-in excitement. But we really loved Running Out of Time. I love Margaret Haddix for preteen, middle grade, and YA books. They always make you stop and think of things from a different perspective. And this one's real focus is, what is the cost of a life, really? And what are we willing to sacrifice in the name of science? So I'll leave you that. That was really good. I listened to Book of 1,000 Days by Shannon Hale as a pre-read for my daughters. We love Princess Academy series. It's great. Thought this one might be way too pagan for me. I mean, it was an interesting story. A wealthy woman and or teen and her servant are locked up in a tower for 7 years. They eventually have to escape. There's a lot of problems that are ensued, and they overcome a lot of that through their pagan rituals. Um, and while that's not terrible to experience, it was a little more heavy-handed in it than that part was. I liked the story. I liked the plot. I liked the characters. The paganism was just too heavy in it. So my kids won't be reading that, but I did enjoy it. Story-wise. So then I did Mark of a Thief by Nielsen. Again, very pagan, but this is a Roman set. We love Jennifer Nielsen. We love her fantasy. We love her fiction, her historical fiction. I put this one off because I thought it was going to be a lot more magical. But it's really more mythology, and I'm actually okay with that. Mark of a Thief is a young man who is a slave and uncovers Julius Caesar's mystical, magical treasure and is marked by a griffin, and it gives him powers. Other people are trying to use those powers or obtain them from him. Yeah, it's got a lot going on. I'm excited to see where book 2 will go. Book 1 was very intriguing, and the story was good. If you're wanting to get your kids to learn a little bit about Roman life, it does talk about that. It's got a lot of mythology tucked in there, and just like some other nuances. I wouldn't necessarily call it historical fiction. It's definitely heavier on the fantasy side, but it does have those nuances. And Nielsen, she just knows how to write a story. So plot, characters, those are always well developed in a Jennifer Nielsen book, so can't go wrong there. I also read All Fall Down by Allie Carter, and this would be, I would say, teen, maybe middle school. And it's kind of like I think it's leading into a spy thriller series kind of thing. It's called the Embassy Row series, and I pre-read this for my oldest. I think she's going to love it. But a young girl has endured tragedy. If you are dealing with death of a parent, you're going to want to avoid this, okay? And she, through dealing with that tragedy, comes with her grandfather, who has been ambassador in this make-believe country for many, decades. And it's all about her reconnecting with people she's known from her past, since the passing of her mother and her subsequent trauma from it. And then her uncovering a mystery and trying to help those and figure out who's on the right side. So you've got a lot of political intrigue going on there, because everything else is real except, all the other countries are real. Only the country they're in is not real. And there's a lot of things, and then it kind of ends on a cliffhanger, which definitely, pulls you in for the next one. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see here. I also finished Wednesday Wars by Gary Schmidt. That was actually, I had put this off and I don't know why. Again, Chantel, that's where I get a lot of my book recommendations, if you don't know. But Chantel has recommended Gary Schmidt and Wednesday Wars as a favorite, her daughter's favorite, all of those things, and it did not disappoint. I actually took it. My mother had a major surgery, and I spent the night with her, and I stayed up the entire night reading it and making videos of my mother snoring, of course. But it was so good. Basically, you have a young man, Hauling Hood, what comes up with names like this, right? And he is in 7th grade, and he's pretty sure, I think it's 7th grade, maybe it's 8th, but he's pretty sure his teacher's out to get him. And that's what the Wednesday Wars are, because on Wednesday afternoons, everybody else gets to go to catechism or Jewish school. He's a Presbyterian. He doesn't get to go anywhere. So he's stuck with this teacher, and he's pretty sure the teacher's mad at him about it and always trying to do things to him to get back at him. And through that, all this is happening during the time of the Vietnam War. So you have these little snippets of history coming through that are really about a time period that I didn't get to study. I don't know about you if you were in public school here in America, but those last few decades of the 1900s are you are flown through, because you spend so much time on the Revolution and Civil War that by the time you get to late 1900s, they just fly through it. And so you don't get a good grasp of it. And so this was very eye-opening. I really, really appreciated that, because I need that push into that time period to study more. And so there was that. But it is hilarious, laugh out loud hilarious book. the hijinks that they get up to, the things that he thinks his teachers torturing him with, and the things that happen, hilarious. And then just like drop throughout these little like pearls of wisdom about politics, about Shakespeare, of all things, just all these different things. And since my kids are we do Shakespeare, and they're familiar with several Shakespeare things, I know that my oldest is going to love this next year. It was such a good book, so funny. I mean, it brought joy to my heart to read it. And so I'm going to be like Chantel and say, everybody should read The Wednesday Wars. It was wonderful. I had 2 books that I DNF'd. So first up was Black Coffee, which is a play that Agatha Christie wrote. I need to get my hands on the play and read the script, because this was a book version. Somebody had taken the play and turned it into a book who was not Agatha Christie, and you could tell. And I just did not enjoy that, and I just DNF'd it. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'll go read some real Agatha Christie. I also DNF'd my Advent of the Lamb, mostly because I misplaced it and couldn't figure out where I'd put it. Finally found it, but I'm going to just put that away until next Christmas, I think, because at this point I would have to start over, really. So that was that. Let's see here. Then family readings, we finished Hamlet finally. That's been like months and months. We finished Hamlet and finished watching the David Tennant and Patrick Stewart version, which if you don't know Hamlet, guy's dad's murdered, comes back as a ghost. His uncle's the one who murdered him. And Hamlet deals with it, and trouble ensues. And it's Shakespeare, and it's a tragedy, so everyone dies. It's really all you need to know. We really enjoyed it. Actually, I was surprised. My kids really enjoyed reading through that. Other family reads, we finished These Happy Golden Years. So that's the last one we read as a family. They want to read the first 4 years. I'll let them do that on their own. I feel like that one's a little heart-wrenching and too hard for my little kids. But the Happy Golden Years, where she's courting Almanzo and getting married, and all these things are just so funny. Like, there's just such... I enjoy it. I enjoy Laura Ingalls Wilder's writing. I enjoy the little nuances, the little events. It was just fun reading. So we finished that as a family, and we also finished The Very, Very Far North with my little kids. That was so enjoyable. And then I sneakily got the second one for them, and they're all already pouring through it. But it was a great, fun, gentle, sweet read. The Very, Very Far North. I'm not sure who it's written by. Short chapters, cute little illustrations, fun, gentle, friendly characters. There are adventures, but they're not harrowing. And it's just silly and cute. It was nice to have just a gentle, sweet book. It was like a refresh. And then I also finished, I almost forgot. Luckily, I took a picture of it. I read I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. Wow. Just wow. It's definitely going on my purchase list. It was amazing. Another one that I read in a night. And I Must Betray You. It's great high school read. I wouldn't do before high school to adult. But it takes place in Romania and follows a young man who is living there during 1989 and the late 80s under communist regime, totalitarian dictator type stuff. I don't know how to say his name really. I say it Nicolae Susko. I don't know if that's really what his name. I don't speak Romanian. But the author, Ruta Sepetys, if you don't know her, she does an amazing amount of research, and she backs it up at the end of the book for you if you need to prove that. But she did such a great job of interviewing people and getting the feel for what it was like to live under that regime, how horrible it was, what the uprising was like when the wall came down in Germany, and then all the other countries, kind of fell away from the Eastern Bloc. Romania still stood. And they were in some desperate, dire times. And this story of I think he's 17-year-old boy, really just shows what life was like there and what it was like in the uprising without being like overly, we need to fight against establishment. It wasn't that kind of mentality. It was just we're fighting to breathe. We're fighting to survive. It was very well written. So I highly recommend I Must Betray You, which is about the Romanian uprising. Go check it out. Also, if your curious about Romanian history, I would also recommend Richard Wurmbrand's Torture for Christ, because he talks about that too. And in his point, Richard Wurmbrand's book, which I did not read this one, but his point is that we hate communism, but we love the people. And in this book, I think that they, in the I Must Betray You, Ruta makes such a good point of showing they're just people and they're all trapped. They're afraid that they are stuck under this, and some of them don't know any way out. And so she just does a wonderful job, and I love the characters in it. It was very clean, maybe a couple of swears, very mild, very, very interesting. So I highly recommend I Must Betray You. So that was really great. Other books that I'm in the middle of that I started this month. So as I said, what am I in? I'm in the middle of, it starts with food, Habits for a Sacred Home, the Amy Carmichael biography, A Chance to Die. I started Book Jumper, which is very interesting. They can jump into the books and then like interact with them. I'm in the middle of Dune still, and then family read-alouds, which we brought back evening family read-alouds. I don't know if that's wise right before we have a baby, but that's what we're doing. So for my little kids, we're rereading The Wild Robot, because they were like infants when I read it the first time. And then Caddy Woodlawn for my older kids. So we try to read those like 2 or 3 nights out of, 2 or 3 nights out of the week, and then that's where we are. So I'm in the middle of all of those books. So I finished about, what did I count? Like I finished 13 books this month, which is pretty good for a month where I wasn't feeling real jazzed. I'm also in the middle of Tress in the Emerald Sea, and that's really good. But I have several that I started and I'm halfway through or part of the way through. So, you know, there's a lot of reading going on, I guess is what I'm saying. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do these wrap-up videos when that's the case. But that's what I read. I'm keeping my little journal. I updated it not well. I had to go back to my Instagram and see what pictures I posted. Cameras are so helpful these days. But I'm trying to rate them and write what I am doing, like DNF, what am I in the middle of, so I kind of know, because I'm really bad at keeping track of what books I've read. Obviously, like as I sat down to read this, I was like, oh yeah, there's another book I finished, especially if it's a library book. So I'm working on, you know, accountability for myself and keeping track of that. So hopefully I will be back shortly and share a February TBR. Thanks for watching.